Hello, everyone. Today's topic is on freedom and choose to be free. This appears to be like an obvious thing. Of course, we choose freedom. Of course, we want to be free. But maybe it is not so obvious. And maybe it is not so simple. And maybe we should be a bit more clear about what is bondage. Because to understand a certain topic, it is useful to understand the contrast also. Freedom is such a word that it is used often, and I want to be free, and we take it for granted. But are we truly free? And what is it that blocks us feeling free? And of course, there is the physical aspect of freedom. Nobody wants to be in jail. Nobody wants to be physically limited by anything or anyone. And of course, there is lots of activism and social activism going on for physical liberation. But when we approach this topic from a spiritual angle, from the perspective of meditation and Raj Yoga, then we come to a whole different dimension of freedom. And that is freedom in our thoughts. Are we compelled? Are we subservient to certain types of thinking or certain thinking patterns or certain thoughts? Or are we as if subservient to certain behavior patterns and certain feelings, and maybe even saying things that we don't really mean or don't really want to say, but we just blurb it out because we don't have control over our behavior, over our tendencies, over our feelings, over our thoughts, over our words. That also means I'm in bondage. Let's say, for example, I need to listen to something I want to, or because it is useful for me, or because I'm interested in it, or because it will enhance my social or private or professional functioning. To listen to it, I need to concentrate. Now, can I, for 15 minutes, fully concentrate on something that I choose to, without any other thoughts coming in, bumping up, disturbing my mind? some thoughts of some person or the neighbor or my car or food or whatever, or some illness or some other person keep coming in my mind. It means I am not free here. It means I am not free to choose what I concentrate on. It means I'm not free to create the thoughts that I want to create. And therefore, I am also not free to create the mood and the state of mind and the feelings and the attitude that I want to create. And maybe that is even a much bigger bondage and prison and a much bigger block of my personal freedom than if it is certain physical limitations. Of course, physically also, we would like there to be no limitations, but even if there is physical freedom, if there is this jail and these bondages in here, then I might not be able to enjoy and appreciate physical freedom. And on the contrary, even if there are physical limitations, if we are free mentally, if we have control inside over our own thoughts and feelings and emotions and attitude and words and behaviors and thinking patterns and tendencies, we might not even feel that the physical limitation is a real limitation. We might be able to change that into something of benefit for the self and maybe even also for others. And so this emphasis is more on this inner freedom. And in every situation, we can choose to be free. But for that, we need to be free from limited beliefs and limited ideas and wrong understandings. First of all, limiting beliefs and wrong understandings about self. And second place, about life and how is this, how does this world exist and what are the laws that govern our life. Now, the first limitation that over time has crept in collective consciousness of human beings is this conviction without questioning that we are mortal human beings with characteristics that are physical and with the limitations that brings with it. Now, the spiritual perspective is you are a spiritual, invisible, non-physical, immortal being of consciousness, an invisible experiencer. And this body is the temporary vehicle of the being of consciousness. Now, this may sound very simple, but this is a radical change of perspective and a radical change of positioning and a radical change of sense of identity. But if we live and play the game of this human life from this spiritual identity, many things are completely different. The limitations of the body I will not see as my limitations, because the real I is this living light, this being of consciousness, playing this part and playing this game. Death, dying doesn't happen for the soul. The real self doesn't die. Nobody really dies. Body gets old and then can't work anymore. That's fine. But I, the being of consciousness, continue on the journey into another experience. The experiencer doesn't end. And so if we shift that perspective, come out of this false beliefs, this ego. Ego in Raj Yoga, we define ego as identification with something limited, identification with something perishable. All these egos that we have created, they block us, they limit us, they put us in jail. And all these egos, they compete for your mind. Every ego wants your thoughts and wants your feelings. And so you may want to concentrate on one thing, but if you have these different egos in the subconscious, they all want to create their own thoughts. So you are not free to think what you want. And so the first choice for freedom is the choice to come out of ignorance on any level, but definitely on a spiritual level also. But on every level of functioning and of existence, if we have accurate knowledge, if we see a broader perspective, we are more free, more chances to not be in bondage. So a simple method to choose freedom in every situation, aim to see the big picture so that you not get trapped in limited thinking and in limited feelings. Try and see the bigger truth. There is always a broader perspective which allows for more healthy thoughts, feelings, behavior, words. So choose freedom. Simple practices. Aim to see the bigger picture. Meditation is the practice of seeing the biggest picture and seeing the big picture of life. And the understanding is that there is a physical dimension, a visible dimension, and there is a non-physical dimension. And the living light, the real self, belongs to that non-physical, invisible dimension. And to reinforce this awareness of the self as this living light. So let's take a few minutes and slow down our thoughts and try and grasp this understanding and come out of this gross sense of identity. They give us these identity cards and ID. That then they show just a picture, but that is just the face and that is just the vehicle. That's not the real you. So let's take a few minutes and use that power of concentration and determination to come back to essence. And the most essential question one can ever pose to the self is, who is I? Is I perishable or is the I imperishable? And it is obvious that there is a body and hands and face and mouth and ears and feet. That's obvious. But wake up to the awareness that there is a conscious thinking being, the invisible experiencer. This is what the word human being implies. The human part is the body, and the being is the invisible experiencer. And when we use this word I, it should be used for this being of consciousness. And to help focus, we use the image of tiny star, living light, operating from behind the eyes, the center of the forehead. Just try and grasp this more subtle understanding. We all are timeless, invisible, imperishable, beings of light. Free. And secure. Because come what may, whatever happens to the body, we always remain the timeless living light. A being who is innately godlike in nature. Tiny, living, conscious star. Who belongs to another dimension. A dimension of infinite silence. Dimension that is timeless. A world of light. The eternal home of peace for the soul. And from this home, this living light has come into the world of matter, into the world of sound, into a body for a temporary period to play the part. But to always come back to essence. This creates immense freedom. See every situation, knowing the self to be this timeless living light, visiting this world of matter for a temporary period. This is the spiritual big picture. This is the source of true freedom. Thank you.